Hello, my dear listeners. My name is Anna, and I'm so grateful you've chosen to join me tonight on another gentle journey through one of nature's most enchanting sanctuaries. Tonight, we'll drift together into the emerald embrace of Washington's Hoh Rainforest, a place that has whispered its secrets to me through countless seasons. I still remember my first glimpse of light filtering through those ancient cedar canopies like scattered gold coins, and the way the moss beneath my fingertips felt softer than any velvet I'd ever touched. The distant murmur of the Hoh River has a voice all its own, patient and eternal, like the earth itself breathing. This temperate rainforest holds mysteries that unfold slowly, rewarding those who approach with quiet hearts and open minds. As we begin our peaceful wandering tonight, I wonder, can you imagine what it might feel like to rest your palm against a tree that has been growing since before your great-grandmother was born? The path beckons us forward with dappled invitation, where shafts of amber sunlight pierce the verdant cathedral above. Here in the Hoh Rainforest, time moves differently, flowing like honey through the spaces between towering Sitka spruce and western hemlock. Your feet sink gently into the forest floor, a cushioned carpet woven from centuries of fallen leaves, decomposing bark, and the patient work of countless seasons. The earth yields beneath each step with a subtle spring, as if the very ground wishes to cradle your journey. Cool air kisses your cheeks with the tender touch of morning mist, carrying whispers of cedar and the green scent of growing things. This atmosphere holds moisture like a gentle embrace, wrapping around you with the softest humidity that makes each breath feel like drinking from a mountain spring. The temperature hovers in that perfect space between warm and cool, as if the forest has found nature's own thermostat, calibrated for comfort and peace. Above us, the canopy creates a living roof painted in every shade of emerald imaginable. From the pale jade of new growth to the deep forest green of ancient needles, light filters down in scattered coins of gold and silver, dancing across bark that ranges from the russet red of cedar to the pewter gray of weathered hemlock. These gentle illuminations shift and sway, creating an ever-changing tapestry of brightness and shadow that plays across the forest floor like nature's own kaleidoscope. The soundscape surrounds us with layers of tranquil music. Somewhere in the distance, water trickles over stones with the patience of centuries, while closer to us, the occasional whisper of wind through branches creates the softest sighs. A woodpecker's rhythmic tapping echoes faintly from deeper in the woods, accompanied by the delicate rustle of small creatures moving through the underbrush. These sounds blend together into a symphony of solitude, each note adding to the forest's peaceful meditation. As we drift deeper along the winding trail, our fingers brush against bark that tells stories through texture. Some trees offer surfaces smooth as river stones, polished by decades of weather, while others present ridged channels and furrows that create natural highways for moisture and tiny organisms. Ferns unfurl beside the path, their fronds soft as silk against our passing hands, while fallen logs provide benches covered in moss, so plush it seems upholstered by fairy hands. The air grows richer here, perfumed with the earthy sweetness of decomposing leaves and the clean, sharp scent of evergreen sap. Underlying these primary notes, we detect the mineral fragrance of stone and soil, mixed with the faintest hint of wildflowers blooming in distant clearings. This aromatic blend shifts subtly as we move, sometimes emphasizing the vanilla warmth of old wood, other times highlighting the crisp freshness of ferns heavy with morning dew. Our path curves gently between massive trunks, some so wide that several people holding hands couldn't encircle their circumference. These ancient giants wear coats of moss in shades ranging from brilliant chartreuse to deep sage, creating living sculptures that seem to glow with their own inner light. The moss itself provides texture like velvet clouds, yielding to touch while somehow maintaining its perfect, cushioned form. Filtered sunbeams reveal the intricate architecture of spider webs stretched between branches, each strand adorned with dewdrops that catch the light like tiny prisms. These delicate constructions shimmer and disappear as the light changes, reminding us that we're witnessing moments of fleeting beauty, woven into the forest's permanent grandeur. The interplay of light and moisture creates an ever-shifting display of natural artistry, where every glance reveals some new detail previously hidden. The humidity embraces us more completely now, wrapping around our skin like the gentlest of blankets. This moisture-rich air carries sound differently, softening edges and creating an acoustic environment that seems to absorb harshness while amplifying the forest's most peaceful sounds. Our breathing naturally slows to match this rhythm, synchronizing with the ancient pulse of the Hoh Rainforest. Ahead, the trail continues its meandering journey deeper into this green sanctuary, promising new discoveries and deeper tranquility. The forest floor rises and falls in gentle undulations, each small hill and hollow holding its own microclimate of scents, sounds, and textures. We find ourselves moving not just through space, but through layers of time itself, where each footstep connects us to the eternal cycle of growth, decay, and renewal that defines this magnificent ecosystem. The canopy above shifts and sighs, allowing glimpses of sky that appear almost impossibly blue against the rich greens of the forest. These openings provide moments of contrast, reminding us of the vast world beyond, while emphasizing the intimate sanctuary we've discovered here among the ancient trees. The interplay of open sky and sheltering branches creates a sense of both freedom and protection, as if we found nature's perfect balance between adventure and safety. Water becomes our companion now, trickling alongside the path in a narrow creek that catches fragments of sky between its ripples. The stream speaks in liquid syllables, each burble and gurgle forming words in a language older than human memory. Tiny fish dart between submerged stones, their silver bodies creating brief flashes that disappear the moment we try to focus on them. The water's edge hosts delicate wildflowers, wood sorrel with heart-shaped leaves, and miniature white blooms that seem to glow against the darker backdrop of forest shadows. Butterflies drift through these open spaces like living petals, their wings painted in colors that shouldn't exist in nature, yet somehow do. Copper-touched with midnight blue, cream-edged in burnt orange, they move with the unhurried grace of creatures who understand that time here operates by different rules, landing momentarily on damp stones before continuing their silent ballet through the filtered air. One settles near us just long enough for us to admire the intricate patterns etched across its wings, like stained glass windows crafted by divine hands. The creek widens into a shallow pool where water striders dance across the surface tension, their feet creating tiny dimples that spread in perfect concentric circles. Dragonflies patrol these waters with iridescent bodies that shift between emerald and sapphire as they dart and hover, their wings beating so rapidly they become transparent suggestions of movement. The pool reflects fragments of canopy and sky, creating an impressionist painting that ripples and reforms with each gentle breeze. Beyond this aquatic interlude, our path climbs gradually through groves of vine maple, whose leaves have begun their autumn transformation, painting splashes of amber and crimson against the predominant greens. These deciduous accents provide counterpoint to the evergreen symphony, their lighter branches creating lacework patterns overhead. Fallen maple leaves float on quiet pools like nature's own origami, each one a small masterpiece of color and form slowly returning to the earth. The understory reveals new textures as we venture further. Devil's Club, with leaves broad as dinner plates, their surfaces veined like green maps of unknown territories. Salmonberry bushes offer their orange jewels to any creature patient enough to discover them, while Oregon grape displays clusters of blue-black berries nestled among holly-like leaves that catch and hold droplets of moisture like precious stones. A great blue heron stands motionless in the shallows ahead, so perfectly still it might be carved from driftwood, until it suddenly strikes, emerging with a silver fish clasped in its beak. The bird's prehistoric grace reminds us that we're witnessing scenes that have played out unchanged for millennia. It takes flight with slow, powerful wing beats, disappearing around a bend where the stream curves deeper into the forest's heart. Fallen nurse logs create natural bridges across wetter areas, their decay providing life for entire gardens of seedlings that sprout from bark made fertile by time and moisture. These horizontal ecosystems demonstrate the forest's genius for renewal, transforming death into opportunity with patient artistry. Young trees grow in perfectly straight lines, their roots finding purchase in the rich compost of their predecessors. The fragrance shifts again as we encounter stands of red alder, whose leaves whisper secrets in a different dialect than the conifers. Their bark appears smooth and pale, marked with horizontal lines like ancient script written across living parchment. Lichen decorates these surfaces in patterns that seem almost deliberate: gray-green rosettes and pale yellow patches that add subtle color to the forest's palette. Roosevelt elk have passed this way recently, their tracks pressed deep into soft earth beside the stream. We imagine their massive forms moving through these same spaces with surprising grace, their antlered heads held high as they navigate between the ancient trunks. The knowledge that we share this sanctuary with such magnificent creatures adds depth to our sense of privilege at being here. Mist begins to gather in the deeper hollows, rising from the stream like spirits made visible. This ethereal presence transforms distant trees into suggestions, their forms becoming mysterious and dreamlike through the gossamer veil. The fog moves with purpose, following the water's course while creating pockets of enhanced intimacy where the world contracts to just a few feet in any direction. Bird songs weave through this misty atmosphere, the liquid notes of a hermit thrush, the cheerful conversation of chickadees, and the distant tapping of a pileated woodpecker working somewhere in the canopy above. These voices seem both near and far, the fog playing tricks with sound that add to the dreamlike quality of our journey. Temperature variations create microclimates within this larger ecosystem. Cool breath rises from the stream, while warm pockets collect in sunny clearings, creating gentle currents of air that caress our skin with alternating touches. These thermal layers add another dimension to the forest's complexity, each one supporting slightly different communities of plants and creatures. The path narrows now, becoming more intimate as it follows the stream's winding course deeper into the rainforest's protected heart. Overhanging branches create natural archways that frame each new vista, while the sound of moving water grows more prominent, promising discoveries yet to come. Our footsteps make no sound on the cushioned earth as we drift forward, carried along by the forest's gentle current toward whatever peaceful revelations await around the next bend. In this enchanted sanctuary, shadows lengthen as we follow the stream's serpentine embrace. And suddenly, the forest opens into a cathedral clearing where shafts of late afternoon sun create pillars of golden dust motes that dance in slow spirals. Here, enormous Sitka spruces stand like ancient sentinels, their trunks disappearing into the canopy, so far above that their crowns seem to brush against distant clouds. The clearing pulses with a different energy, more open, yet somehow more sacred than the intimate tunnels we've just traveled. A family of river otters plays in the deeper pools, their sleek bodies creating V-shaped wakes as they dive and surface with effortless joy. Their chittering calls echo off the surrounding trees, a sound like laughter translated into nature's own vocabulary. One pauses on a moss-covered boulder, grooming its whiskers with tiny paws while keeping watchful eyes on our peaceful passage. The creature's presence feels like a blessing, a sign that we've earned acceptance into this hidden world. Chanterelle mushrooms peek from beneath sword ferns, their golden trumpets glowing against the dark soil, like buried treasure waiting to be discovered. Nearby, clusters of coral fungi spread across rotting wood in formations that resemble underwater gardens, their branched structures creating miniature landscapes of cream and pale orange. The fungal networks beneath our feet extend invisibly for miles, connecting tree to tree in an underground internet of nutrients and communication that predates human civilization. Wild ginger carpets sections of the forest floor, its heart-shaped leaves releasing a spicy sweet aroma when our footsteps brush against them. The scent mingles with the sharper notes of wild mint growing near the water's edge, creating an herbaceous bouquet that seems to clear our minds and deepen our breathing. These natural aromatherapy gardens occur without human planning, evolved over millennia to create perfect harmony. A spotted owl calls from somewhere in the canopy's upper reaches, its haunting voice echoing through the cathedral space with notes that seem to contain all the mystery of twilight forests. The sound arrives in waves, bouncing off tree trunks and fading into whispers that make us pause and listen to the silence that follows. In that quiet moment, we can almost hear the forest thinking, processing sunlight into dreams. Dewberry vines drape across fallen logs like nature's own tapestries, their berries scattered like dark pearls among serrated leaves. The fruit tastes of summer rain and sunshine, each tiny globe bursting with concentrated forest essence. Huckleberry bushes add their own offerings, purple spheres with a tartness that awakens the palate and connects us more deeply to this place through taste. The stream curves around a bend where carved banks reveal layers of geological history in their exposed walls. Clay the color of aged copper alternates with bands of river stone and organic matter, creating a cross-section of time where centuries of flooding and recession have written their story in sediment. Tree roots emerge from these banks like ancient fingers, some reaching toward the water, while others curl back into the earth's embrace. Sword ferns grow here in extraordinary abundance, their fronds reaching shoulder height and creating corridors of green that rustle with a sound like gentle applause as we pass between them. Each frond displays perfect symmetry, every leaflet positioned with mathematical precision that speaks to nature's underlying order. Spores dust the undersides in patterns that look like hieroglyphics, carrying the genetic memory of forests that covered this land when mastodons walked these valleys. A great horned owl begins its evening vigil from a snag where woodpeckers have carved doorways into apartments for smaller creatures. Nuthatches spiral down the bark in their characteristic head-first descent, while tree frogs hidden in bark crevices begin their tentative evening chorus. The transition from day to night voices creates a changing of the guard that feels both ancient and immediate. Lungwort lichen decorates bark surfaces in patterns that resemble abstract paintings, pale green patches edged with darker borders that create natural mandalas. These slow-growing partnerships between fungi and algae serve as living air quality monitors, their very presence confirming the purity of this pristine environment. They add texture to every surface they touch, transforming ordinary bark into tactile art galleries. Steam rises from sun-warmed pools where the stream widens and slows, creating thermal columns that twist skyward, carrying the concentrated essence of forest and water. These vapor trails catch the slanted light and become visible for brief moments before dispersing into the general humidity that cushions every breath we take. The warmth on our faces feels like gentle hands cupping our cheeks. Wild cucumber vines festoon the understory with heart-shaped leaves and delicate white flowers that release perfume so subtle we only notice it when turning our heads just so. Their tendrils curl around anything available for support, creating living sculptures that demonstrate nature's inherent artistry. The flowers will become spiky seed pods that children of all species will play with when autumn arrives. Pacific tree frogs begin their twilight songs from hidden perches, their voices creating a percussion section that complements the stream's constant melody. Some call with rapid-fire notes like tiny drums, while others offer longer, more melodic phrases that rise and fall in pitch. Together, they weave a tapestry of sound that seems to emerge from the forest itself rather than individual creatures. Vanilla leaf plants spread their three-lobed leaves like green hands reaching toward filtered sunlight, their surfaces glossy enough to reflect fragments of sky. When autumn comes, these leaves will release their namesake fragrance. But even now, they contribute a subtle sweetness to the forest's olfactory symphony. Indigenous peoples once used these leaves as natural perfume, understanding what modern visitors are only beginning to rediscover. The pathway ahead disappears around another gentle curve, where evening mist begins to gather in earnest, transforming the familiar into the magical. Tree trunks fade in and out of visibility like thoughts at the edge of sleep, while the stream's voice grows more prominent as visual distractions diminish. We find ourselves moving more by sound and intuition than sight, trusting the forest to guide our feet along the worn earth. Night blooming evening primrose buds prepare to open in clearings ahead, their pale petals ready to unfold when darkness provides the proper cue. Bats will soon emerge to hunt insects drawn to these ghostly flowers, completing circles of interdependence that have sustained this ecosystem since the last ice age retreated and left this temperate paradise in its wake. Our pathway leads us beneath a natural archway formed by two massive western hemlocks, whose lower branches have intertwined over decades, creating a living doorway that frames the misty trail ahead. The bark here feels different under our trailing fingertips, deeply grooved and fibrous, like organic velvet that tells stories through texture alone. Small puddles mirror fragments of darkening sky, their surfaces occasionally disturbed by the gentle plop of condensation falling from branches high above. Night-scented stock releases its evening perfume from hidden blooms, a fragrance that seems to bloom directly in our consciousness, rather than merely entering through our nostrils. This ghostly sweetness mingles with the mineral scent of granite boulders that emerge from the forest floor like sleeping giants, their surfaces polished smooth by countless seasons of rain and adorned with patches of crustose lichen that feel like nature's own braille beneath exploring palms. The understory transforms in this deeper realm, where Indian pipe plants rise like porcelain figurines from the humus. Translucent white stems, topped with nodding bell-shaped flowers that seem to glow with their own inner phosphorescence. These mysterious saprophytes live entirely without chlorophyll drawing sustenance from the fungal networks that connect every root system in an invisible web of mutual nourishment. Carpenter ants traverse highways carved into rotting cedar, their bodies creating tiny traffic patterns that speak of industrious purpose. The wood they tunnel through releases a peppery aroma when disturbed, sharp and clean, like freshly sharpened pencils. These insect architects transform decay into opportunity. Their patient work, aerating the soil and creating chambers that will shelter countless other creatures through winter's sleep. Bunchberry dogwood spreads its whorled leaves in perfect geometric patterns across the forest floor. Each plant centered with clusters of tiny white flowers that will become bright red berries. The symmetry feels almost mathematical, as if the forest has been laid out according to principles of sacred geometry that reveal themselves only to those who move slowly enough to notice. A barred owl's questioning call floats through the gathering dusk. Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you? Its voice rich and chocolatey, seeming to emerge from the very shadows between the trees. The sound carries layers of meaning, ancient and wild, reminding us that we share this sanctuary with creatures whose ancestors hunted these same groves when the world was young and unnamed. Moonbeams begin to penetrate the canopy in silver threads, illuminating gossamer spider silk that stretches between branches like fairy telegraph wires. These delicate strands catch moisture from the humid air, transforming into strings of diamonds that appear and vanish as our perspective shifts. The entire forest seems connected by these invisible threads, creating a communication network that operates on frequencies beyond human perception. False Solomon's seal arches gracefully beside rotting stumps, its alternate leaves catching moonlight in patterns that create natural chiaroscuro paintings against the darker background. The plant's elegant form speaks of patience and persistence, qualities that define every successful resident of this moisture-rich ecosystem, where nothing grows quickly, but everything endures. Cascara bark peels in thin strips from nearby trees, curling like ancient scrolls that invite touch with their papery texture. Indigenous peoples once harvested this bark for medicine, understanding properties that modern science has only recently begun to quantify. The trees continue their generous offerings, their very essence designed to heal and nurture whatever creatures seek their shelter. Tiny brook lampreys navigate the shallow riffles, where water flows over pebbles worn round as eggs. These primitive creatures move like living question marks, their sinuous bodies perfectly adapted to life in the spaces between stones. They remind us of evolution's long patience, of forms so successful they have remained unchanged across geological eras. Trilliums emerge from rich soil in groups of three leaves, 3 petals, 3 sepals, their white flowers seeming to capture and concentrate what little light penetrates the canopy's darkening veil. These spring ephemerals bloom briefly, but memorably, their perfect symmetry creating moments of profound beauty that reward careful observers with glimpses of natural perfection. The stream pools into deeper basins here, creating mirrors that reflect not just the sky, but something deeper, perhaps the forest's own dreams made visible in dark water. Caddisfly larvae construct their protective cases from tiny pebbles and organic debris, becoming living jewelry boxes that tumble along the streambed like precious stones scattered by generous hands. Kinnikinick spreads its small leather leaves across sunny patches where the canopy opens briefly, its red berries providing sustenance for creatures preparing for winter's long fast. The plant hugs the earth with determination, its trailing stems creating living carpets that cushion each footstep with springy resilience. Western skunk cabbage unfurls enormous paddle-shaped leaves in the wettest areas, their bright green surfaces large enough to serve as umbrellas for smaller woodland creatures. These plants generate their own heat during early spring growth, actually melting snow around their emerging shoots through botanical fever that demonstrates nature's mastery over seemingly impossible challenges. Pandora moths rest on bark surfaces, their wings patterned like fragments of stained glass windows that have somehow learned to breathe. These night flyers will soon begin their evening dance, drawn to mysterious lunar rhythms that connect them to cycles older than human memory. The air itself seems to thicken with possibility as complete darkness settles over our forest sanctuary. Sounds become more prominent, the whisper of bat wings overhead, the distant crack of settling wood, the almost inaudible rustle of creatures beginning their nocturnal routines. Each footfall on the soft earth creates barely perceptible vibrations that travel through root networks, announcing our peaceful presence to the forest's sleeping consciousness. Phosphorescent fungi begin to glow with ethereal light from rotting logs, creating natural lanterns that guide our way with ghostly illumination. These bioluminescent beacons pulse with mysterious rhythms, perhaps synchronized to the forest's own heartbeat, transforming decay into beauty and darkness into wonder. Our journey continues deeper into this nocturnal paradise, where every sense becomes heightened and every breath carries the promise of dreams woven from moonlight, mist, and the ancient wisdom of trees that have learned the secret of transforming time into peace. Fireflies begin their tentative blink, patterns in meadow openings where the forest temporarily surrenders to grassland. Their cold light writing ephemeral messages across the darkness. These living stars pulse with codes we can almost, but never quite decipher. Their synchronized flashing, creating a conversation that spans the entire clearing. The grass beneath our feet releases the green scent of chlorophyll bruised by dew, while night-blooming catchfly opens its sticky petals to lure moths with promises of nectar. Our ears detect the soft whoosh of owl wings passing overhead. So silent, they seem to absorb sound rather than create it. Great gray owls hunt these meadows with facial discs that funnel the tiniest mouse whisper into their acute hearing. Their feathered silence, a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. The predators move like living shadows, their presence felt more through intuition than observation. Shooting stars the flowers, not celestial bodies, nod their swept-back magenta petals in small clusters. Their distinctive backward-pointing blooms resembling tiny comets frozen in botanical time. These prairie natives have found sanctuary in the forest's embrace, their roots reaching deep into soil, enriched by centuries of fallen needles and decomposing giants. The meadow's edge hosts serviceberry bushes heavy with purple fruit that tastes of concentrated summer. Each berry a small explosion of sweetness that connects us to the countless creatures who depend on this seasonal abundance. Black bears will strip these branches clean in coming weeks, their massive forms surprisingly gentle as they harvest nature's candy with lips more delicate than human fingers. Katydids begin their rasping serenade from grass stems, their legs creating music through friction, sawing out rhythms that speak of August nights and grassland dreams. The sound grows and fades in waves as different sections of the meadow's orchestra take turns carrying the melody, creating an audio tide that washes over us in comforting repetition. We encounter a small seasonal pond where fairy shrimp drift through dark water like living commas, their translucent bodies barely visible except when moonlight catches their swimming motion. These ancient arthropods appear and disappear with the water levels, their eggs capable of waiting years for perfect conditions before hatching into temporary aquatic ballets. Sedges rim the pond's perimeter with their triangular stems. Sedges have edges, as the old botanist's rhyme reminds us, their texture crisp and architectural compared to the softer grasses nearby. Water striders continue their surface tension dance even in darkness, creating ripples that catch starlight and scatter it in expanding circles that fade into the pond's obsidian stillness. The path draws us back toward the forest proper, where Douglas fir guardians stand with bark deeply furrowed like elephant skin. Their characteristic cones, scattered beneath, like small wooden pineapples, dropped by careless giants. These monarchs have witnessed centuries of seasonal cycles, their rings recording drought years and abundant summers in cellular libraries that dwarf human record-keeping. Pipsissewa plants emerge from needle duff with their serrated evergreen leaves arranged in neat whorls, their waxy surfaces reflecting moonbeams with mirror-like precision. Come daylight, these woodland treasures will reveal nodding pink flowers. But now, they remain mysterious silhouettes promising beauty that requires patience to discover. Lungwort lichen creates textural gardens across every available surface. Its ruffled edges and pale coloration transforming ordinary bark into living art installations. These slow-growing partnerships between fungi and algae clean the air as they grow, their very existence testimony to the forest's pristine atmospheric conditions. A screech, owl's tremulous whinny echoes from cavities in dead snags, the sound wavering between notes like a question being asked in a forgotten language. These compact predators hunt with fierce intensity despite their diminutive size, their calls serving as territorial announcements that divide the night forest into invisible kingdoms. Wild strawberry plants spread their three-part leaves across sunny patches, their tiny white flowers long since transformed into seeds that will feed ground-dwelling creatures through winter's lean months. The leaves themselves release a subtle fruity fragrance when crushed, carrying memories of summer sweetness even in darkness. Millipedes emerge for their nocturnal wanderings, their segmented bodies moving in waves of coordinated legs that create hypnotic patterns of locomotion. These gentle decomposers transform fallen leaves into soil with patient efficiency. Their slow progress across the forest floor marking time in millimeter increments, ground-hugging partridge foot carpets areas where little else grows, its tiny round leaves creating living mosaics that feel like organic coins beneath exploring fingertips. This humble plant thrives in the forest's deepest shadows, proof that beauty adapts to every niche nature provides. Spider webs spanning between shrubs catch moisture from the night air, their geometric perfection becoming visible only when condensation outlines every strand with crystal beads. These architectural marvels appear overnight and vanish with morning breezes. Temporary galleries showcasing nature's mastery of engineering and art combined. False lily of the valley spreads heart-shaped leaves in alternating patterns along the forest floor, their surface texture smooth as silk, but with subtle veining that creates natural fingerprints unique to each individual plant. Small white berries dot these colonies like scattered pearls, their bitter taste protecting them from all but the most desperate foragers. A great blue heron rookery occupies the canopy of several massive cottonwoods near a hidden wetland. Though the birds themselves remain invisible in darkness, their presence lingers in the air, a wild scent that speaks of fish and distant waters, of creatures perfectly adapted to life at the intersection of land and stream. Pearly Everlasting stands in ghostly clusters where meadow meets forest, their papery white bracts maintaining their ethereal beauty, even as surrounding vegetation surrenders to autumn's transformation. These flowers seem designed for moonlight, their pale faces turning skyward as if seeking celestial conversation. The wetland reveals itself gradually through sound, the gentle plop of beaver tails, the rustle of cattails in night breezes, the almost inaudible whisper of water moving through reed stems. Red-winged blackbirds sleep, clinging to these vertical perches, their scarlet shoulder patches hidden until dawn brings territorial displays and liquid songs. Bog laurel blooms in poisonous beauty along the wetland's acidic margins, its pink flowers cupped like tiny chalices waiting for fairy visitors. This member of the heath family thrives in conditions too harsh for most competitors, creating gardens of deadly elegance that remind us nature's beauty often comes wrapped in danger. Our footsteps find a boardwalk constructed from weather-silvered cedar, its surface worn smooth by countless previous journeys into this aquatic wilderness. The planks flex slightly under our weight, creating subtle percussion as we move across water too deep for wading, too shallow for swimming, a liquid boundary between worlds. Pickerel frogs call from concealed positions among emergent vegetation, their voices creating metallic snores that harmonize with the wetland's nocturnal symphony. These amphibian musicians time their performances to mysterious cues, sometimes falling silent all at once, as if responding to conductor's baton only they can see. The boardwalk curves deeper into this aquatic sanctuary, leading us toward discoveries that await where solid ground dissolves into something more fluid, more mysterious, more perfectly designed for dreams that flow like dark water toward the peace that dwells at the heart of all wild places. Beaver-gnawed stumps emerge from the dark water like ancient totems, their conical points creating abstract sculptures that speak of industrious nights and patient engineering. The freshly exposed wood gleams pale against the obsidian surface, releasing the sharp, clean scent of cambium layers that will soon oxidize to amber in tomorrow's sun. These aquatic architects have transformed the landscape with their persistent vision, creating ponds that support entire communities of creatures drawn to to still water's promise. Damselflies rest along the boardwalk's weathered railings, their wings folded vertically like tiny sails at anchor, waiting for dawn to resurrect their aerial courtship rituals. Even in darkness, their iridescent bodies hint at the jewel-toned brilliance daylight will reveal emerald thoraxes and sapphire abdomens that transform these insects into flying gemstones. The water below our feet pulses with invisible life, diving beetles navigating by echolocation, water boatmen rowing through liquid darkness with oar-like legs, predaceous diving beetle larvae stalking prey with prehistoric patience. Each creates miniature currents that radiate outward in expanding rings, writing temporary stories across the pond's receptive surface. Bulrush seed heads explode in delayed fireworks, releasing parachute-equipped offspring to drift on night breezes toward colonization sites unknown. These botanical dispersal events happen silently, invisibly, yet represent moments of profound consequence for future wetland communities. The seeds catch briefly on our clothing before continuing their aerial journey toward destiny. Great blue herons remain motionless as weathered fence posts in the shallows, their hunting stance so perfectly still they seem carved from driftwood, until sudden strikes reveal their predatory alertness. These patient fishers understand that success requires absolute commitment to stillness, their very breathing synchronized to water rhythms that might otherwise telegraph their presence to wary prey. Dragonfly nymphs prowl the muddy bottom on legs designed for stealth, their extendable jaws capable of lightning-fast strikes that capture unwary tadpoles and mosquito larvae. These underwater dragons represent transformation's most dramatic expression. Aquatic predators destined to emerge as aerial acrobats when mysterious internal clocks signal metamorphosis time. Yellow pond lilies float like golden medallions across deeper sections, their waxy petals closed for the night, but promising morning revelations of butter-colored beauty. The lily pads themselves create landing platforms for creatures transitioning between aquatic and terrestrial existence, their broad surfaces strong enough to support small frogs and patient enough to serve as nurseries for countless insect eggs. We detect the musky sweetness of cattail pollen mixed with the metallic tang of iron-rich water and the vegetal breath of photosynthesis paused until sunrise. This aromatic cocktail speaks of productivity and decay in perfect balance, where death feeds life in cycles so ancient they predate human language, capable of describing their elegant complexity. The boardwalk terminates at an observation platform, where benches invite contemplation of this aquatic theater. Here, The forest canopy opens enough to reveal stars reflecting in still water, creating the illusion of walking through space with constellations both above and below our suspended position. The platform sways almost imperceptibly, reminding us that we rest upon something alive and responsive. Night herons emerge from reed shadows like feathered ghosts, their stockier builds and shorter necks distinguishing them from their great blue cousins, even in darkness. These crepuscular hunters specialize in low-light fishing, their large eyes gathering available photons with evolutionary efficiency that puts human night vision to shame. Painted turtles sleep with their shells barely breaking the surface, creating dark islands that appear and disappear as gentle currents shift their positions. Come morning, these reptilian sunbathers will claim prime basking spots on partially submerged logs. But now they drift in aquatic dreams where time moves like cool mud between ancient toes. The marsh's breath carries hints of methane and hydrogen sulfide, not unpleasant, but earthy, speaking of anaerobic processes that transform organic matter in oxygen-starved sediments. This chemistry represents one of Earth's oldest metabolic pathways, dating to epochs when our planet's atmosphere contained little of the oxygen we now depend upon. Belted kingfishers occasionally rattle their harsh calls from favorite perches on dead snags overhanging the deepest pools, their voices carrying the authority of creatures perfectly adapted to life at water's edge. These tunnel-nesting fishers excavate burrows in earthen banks, their long bills designed for spearing prey with surgical precision. Arrowhead plants thrust their distinctive leaf shapes above the waterline like green road signs, pointing toward some botanical destination. Their three-lobed silhouettes unmistakable, even in starlight. Indigenous peoples once harvested these plants' tuberous roots, understanding nutritional value that sustained communities through winter's scarcity. Caddisfly cases constructed from perfectly matched pebbles tumble along the shallow bottom like tiny architectural experiments, each larva building protective shelters that reflect individual aesthetic sensibilities. Some prefer symmetrical designs, while others create asymmetrical masterpieces, suggesting that artistic expression exists even in the insect world. A beaver's wake creates a V-shaped disturbance that spreads across the pond's surface, the animal's passage marked more by water displacement than visible presence. These aquatic engineers move through their domain with proprietorial confidence, their flat tails serving as rudders, propellers, and communication devices, depending on need. Mosquito fish dart in coordinated schools through warmer shallows, their tiny bodies creating silver flashes when occasional moonbeams penetrate the canopy's protective embrace. These live-bearing minnows represent nature's biological pest control, consuming mosquito larvae with enthusiasm that benefits every warm-blooded creature in the ecosystem. The observation platform's weathered wood holds the day's warmth like a gentle heating pad, its sun-soaked fibers slowly releasing stored thermal energy into the cooling night air. Cedar planks exhale their characteristic incense, while Douglas fir supports contribute vanilla undertones that blend into the wetland's complex aromatic symphony. Mink tracks pressed into muddy shallows tell stories of nocturnal hunting expeditions, their small paw prints accompanied by the distinctive drag marks of captured prey being transported to secure dining locations. These semi-aquatic predators move between water and land with fluid grace, equally comfortable pursuing fish or stalking terrestrial prey. Common yellowthroat warblers sleep hidden in cattail thickets, their distinctive witchetty songs silenced until dawn awakens territorial impulses and courtship displays. These marsh specialists build intricate nests just above water level, weaving cattail fibers and sedge stems into nurseries that survive seasonal flooding. The wetland extends beyond our vision into darkness that promises further discoveries for those willing to surrender daylight certainties for nocturnal revelations. Water continues its ancient work of transformation, dissolving boundaries between solid and liquid, between individual and ecosystem, between consciousness and the deeper dreams that flow like dark currents through the sleeping heart of the Hoh Rainforest's most secret sanctuary, where every ripple carries whispered invitations to rest, to float, to become one with the gentle rhythms that have pulsed unchanged since the world learned how to dream in water and starlight. A great horned owl's silhouette shifts against the star-punctured canopy as we follow a narrow deer trail that winds away from the wetland's liquid embrace. The path here feels different beneath our feet, softer somehow, composed of centuries of pine needles compressed into a natural carpet that releases tiny puffs of resinous dust with each gentle step. These microscopic clouds carry the concentrated essence of countless summers, their golden particles dancing briefly in whatever moonlight manages to filter through the increasingly dense overhead tapestry. Western red cedar sweeps begin to brush our shoulders with feather-light touches as the trail narrows, their scale like needles releasing microscopic droplets of essential oils that seem to coat our skin with invisible velvet. These aromatic compounds work like nature's own aromatherapy, their molecular structure designed to calm nervous systems and slow racing thoughts into the rhythm of deep forest time. somewhere in the canopy's upper reaches. A pair of northern flying squirrels glide between massive trunks on stretched membrane wings. Their passage creating subtle whooshes of displaced air that feel more like gentle breath across our upturned faces than actual wind. These nocturnal acrobats navigate three-dimensional highways invisible to ground-bound creatures. Their lives spent in aerial territories where seasons are measured by the flowering cycles of preferred lichen species. The forest floor slopes gently upward now, following contours carved by glacial movements that retreated millennia ago, but left their signature in every rise and hollow. Nurse logs lie across this ancient topography like sleeping giants, their decay providing elevated gardens where entire ecosystems flourish 10 feet above the surrounding earth. Young hemlocks and red cedars sprout from these horizontal nurseries in perfect rows, their roots eventually reaching around their hosts to touch mineral soil below. Wild columbine nods its spurred blue blossoms in small clearings where treefalls have created temporary skylights. These delicate flowers seeming to capture fragments of twilight in their backward-pointing petals. Hummingbirds visit these blooms during daylight hours, their needle-like bills perfectly evolved to reach nectar hidden deep within the flower's architectural complexity. But now, the blossoms rest empty, saving their sweetness for tomorrow's winged visitors. Carpenter ants have carved extensive galleries through fallen Douglas fir logs, their tunnels creating resonant chambers that amplify the forest's subtlest sounds. When wind moves through these natural wind instruments, they produce barely audible musical tones, deep bass notes that vibrate more through bone than through air, connecting us to the forest's hidden percussion section. Lady ferns unfurl their lacy fronds in graceful spirals that follow mathematical principles older than human geometry, each emerging fiddlehead demonstrating nature's mastery of golden ratios and Fibonacci sequences. The tender tips of these unfurling sculptures taste faintly of almonds when brushed by curious lips. Their cellular structure so delicate that merely breathing on them seems to accelerate their patient uncoiling. Roosevelt elk trails intersect our pathway at regular intervals. These massive highways worn smooth by generations of hoofed travelers who understand forest navigation better than any human mapmaker. The trails follow elevation contours with engineering precision, their gentle grades evidence of intelligence that calculates energy expenditure across seasons of migration between summer and winter ranges. Black bear claw marks score the bark of favored scratching trees. These vertical scratches serving as message boards for a community that communicates through scent and scarification rather than vocalization. The gouges release sap that hardens into amber droplets, creating tiny time capsules that preserve fragments of forest atmosphere in crystalline perfection. Pacific rhododendrons prepare for their spectacular spring, awakening in sheltered groves where winter's harshest moods cannot penetrate. Their leathery leaves curled tight against moisture loss, while flower buds wait in protective scales for warming temperatures to trigger explosive blooms. These native azaleas will transform shadowy understories into cathedral galleries, painted in shades of pink and purple that exist nowhere else in nature's palette. Ground beetles patrol the forest floor with iridescent carapaces that flash metallic greens and blues when caught in stray moonbeams. Their predatory efficiency, helping maintain the delicate balance between decomposer populations and the organic matter they process. These armored hunters move with purpose through leaf-litter landscapes, their mandibles capable of dispatching prey twice their size. Bracket fungi create living shelves along dead snags, their woody surfaces providing platforms for entire miniature ecosystems, where tardigrades and rotifers conduct microscopic dramas invisible to unaided human observation. These fungal libraries grow by adding annual rings like trees, their persistent structure surviving seasons that destroy softer organisms. The trail curves around massive root buttresses that flare from ancient cedar bases like flying buttresses on Gothic cathedrals. Their organic architecture solving structural engineering problems millions of years before humans invented similar solutions. These natural supports distribute enormous weights across broad foundation areas, allowing trees to achieve heights that seem to defy gravitational logic. Vanilla leaf plants release their characteristic fragrance more strongly in darkness, their three-lobed leaves exhaling sweet molecules that mingle with the sharper scents of decomposing alder leaves to create olfactory layers, reminiscent of baking spices mixed with fresh bread. Indigenous peoples understood this aromatic timing, harvesting vanilla leaf during optimal scent periods for natural perfumes and ceremonial purposes. A barred owl family maintains territorial discussions across invisible boundaries, their 8-note calls creating overlapping conversations that demonstrate complex social structures, extending far beyond simple mating rituals. These vocal exchanges establish hunting territories, coordinate parental duties, and maintain community relationships that may span multiple generations of forest-dwelling families. Stellar's jays will reclaim these branches come morning. But now, the corvid roosts remain silent, except for occasional sleep sounds, soft chirps, and bill clicks that suggest these intelligent birds dream in languages more complex than their daylight vocalizations reveal. Their caches of stored seeds and nuts remain hidden throughout the forest, creating potential groves that may not germinate for decades. The path leads us beside a seasonal seep where mineral-rich groundwater emerges from hidden springs, creating micro-wetlands that support plant communities requiring specific chemistry found nowhere else in the surrounding ecosystem. Monkey flowers bloom here in shades of yellow and orange that seem to glow with internal light. Their snapdragon-like faces designed to accommodate bumblebee visitors with precision landing platforms. Sweet woodruff carpets the dampest areas with whorled leaves that release coumarin compounds when crushed, filling the air with the scent of new-mown hay mixed with vanilla and honey. This fragrant ground cover was once used to flavor May wine and stuff mattresses. Its soporific properties, recognized by cultures that understood plant chemistry long before laboratories could identify specific molecular structures. The seep's overflow creates a series of stepping stones where flat rocks provide dry passage across the wettest areas, each stone worn smooth by countless crossings and decorated with cushions of moss so thick they seem upholstered by fairy craftspeople. The water's mineral content leaves crystalline deposits along rock edges, creating natural jewelry that sparkles when touched by the faintest light. Our journey continues beyond this aquatic interlude toward groves that promise even deeper solitude, where the forest's most ancient residents await in patient silence, their massive presences holding space for dreams that flow like underground rivers through root systems connected across miles of seemingly separate trees, each one part of a living network that breathes, thinks, and dreams in rhythms older than memory, slower than heartbeats, deeper than sleep. Devil's Club stands sentinel in shadowed alcoves, its enormous palmate leaves creating natural umbrellas that shelter delicate coral root orchids blooming in shades of dusty rose and cream. These parasitic beauties draw sustenance entirely from mycorrhizal relationships, their translucent stems rising like ghostly candles from the humus, without a single green leaf to capture sunlight. The orchid's subtle perfume carries notes of apricot and old roses, a fragrance so ephemeral it seems to exist only in the space between one breath and the next. Cascading waterfalls thread silver ribbons down moss-draped cliff faces, where maidenhair ferns create living lace curtains that flutter in the perpetual breeze generated by falling water. The limestone beneath these falls has been carved into smooth sculptures by patient erosion, creating natural basins that overflow in perfect crescendos of liquid music. Each droplet catches and refracts available light, transforming ordinary water into prisms that paint fleeting rainbows across wet stone surfaces. Tree voles construct their elaborate nests high in red cedar crowns, weaving together shed bark strips and lichen into apartment complexes that house multiple generations of these arboreal specialists. Their tiny architect minds design structures that sway harmoniously with wind patterns, never fighting the forest's movements, but dancing with them in aerial choreography that has evolved over countless storms and seasons. The understory reveals treasures previously hidden clusters of ghost pipe, emerging like small white flames from particularly rich soil. Their waxy petals seeming to generate their own luminescence in the deepening darkness. These unusual flowers belong to plants that have abandoned photosynthesis entirely, existing in partnership with fungi that connect them to the vast underground networks feeding from living tree roots. Lungwort and old man's beard lichens drape from branches in elaborate tapestries that filter air and capture moisture with biological efficiency that surpasses human engineering. These composite organisms grow so slowly that some specimens adorning ancient oak trees may have begun their patient accumulation of mass before European explorers ever glimpsed this coastline, making them among the oldest living residents of this temperate cathedral. Pacific giant salamanders navigate the forest floor like miniature dragons, their mottled skin providing perfect camouflage against bark patterns as they hunt for slugs and earthworms with prehistoric determination. These largest terrestrial salamanders in North America can live for decades, their longevity allowing them to witness numerous cycles of forest succession while maintaining their patient, moisture-dependent lifestyle. Snowberries cluster in porcelain white spheres that seem to capture and hold moonlight within their translucent skin, each berry containing seeds that will survive passage through bird digestive systems to germinate in distant locations. The berry's slightly waxy coating provides protection against early frost while maintaining enough flexibility to yield satisfying pops when compressed between curious fingers. Western trilliums emerge in protected hollows where spring flowers continue blooming despite the advancing season, their three-petaled faces turning from white to deep pink as they age, creating natural color gradients that demonstrate time's passage in botanical brushstrokes. These ancient wildflowers require specific soil chemistry and undisturbed conditions, making their presence indicators of ecosystem health that scientists use to measure forest integrity. ruby-crowned kinglets flit through middle canopy levels, even in darkness. Their hyperactive metabolisms, requiring almost constant feeding, that continues through twilight hours, when most other songbirds have settled into roosting positions. Their crowns remain hidden now, but dawn will reveal the scarlet patches that give these tiny dynamos their royal designation. Bracket fungi display concentric growth rings that record annual precipitation patterns in their woody flesh, creating biological rain gauges that preserve decades of climatic data in living libraries attached to slowly dying trees. Some specimens achieve dinner plate dimensions over years of patient expansion, their surfaces providing landing pads for insects and nesting sites for cavity-dwelling creatures. The trail descends through groves of bigleaf maple, whose massive leaves create overhead mosaics that will soon transition to autumn's golden spectacle, but now remain green enough to filter starlight into patterns that shift across the forest floor like projected artwork from celestial sources. Epiphytic ferns colonize these deciduous giants, creating aerial gardens that thrive on moisture and nutrients captured from fog and rainfall. Red huckleberry bushes offer their tart crimson gems to any creature capable of appreciating their concentrated forest essence, each berry containing enough vitamin C to sustain small mammals through nutritional challenges of winter dormancy. The bushes grow directly from nurse logs, their roots eventually encasing decomposing wood in living sheaths that will outlast their hosts by centuries. Twin flower trails across acidic soil in fragrant carpets, its paired pink bells releasing evening perfume that attracts night-flying moths with proboscises long enough to reach hidden nectar reserves. This circumboreal species connects our Pacific Northwest sanctuary to boreal forests across northern continents, creating botanical bridges that span oceans through evolutionary relationships millions of years in the making. Springtail insects emerge for their nocturnal activities, their ability to catapult themselves through leaf litter, using specialized furcula creating tiny acrobatic displays, visible only to the most patient observers. These primitive hexapods represent some of Earth's earliest terrestrial colonists, their simple body plans proving so successful they have required minimal modification across geological eras. Slime molds begin their mysterious life cycles in the moisture-rich environment created by overlapping canopies and persistent humidity. Their plasmodial stages creeping across rotting wood with intelligence that defies simple cellular organization. These organisms blur boundaries between plant and animal kingdoms, demonstrating that nature's categories exist more in human minds than in biological reality. The path approaches a natural amphitheater where several massive trees have fallen in patterns that create acoustic chambers. Their intersecting trunks forming geometric relationships that amplify whispered sounds while dampening harsh noises. Indigenous peoples may have recognized these natural gathering places, using their acoustic properties for ceremonies that honored the forest spirits dwelling in such perfectly arranged sanctuaries. Wind harps created by dead snags sing barely audible melodies when air currents find their hollow chambers. These natural instruments producing tones so low they register more as vibrations through our bones than sounds through our ears. The music shifts with atmospheric pressure changes, creating compositions that respond to weather patterns developing beyond the horizon. Our pathway leads toward the forest's deepest heart, where giants older than recorded history maintain their patient vigil. Roots intertwined in networks that share nutrients, information, and perhaps dreams across acres of seemingly individual trees that function as organs in a superorganism too vast for human comprehension to fully grasp. Witches' butter fungi glisten like amber jewels along dead branches, their gelatinous surfaces trembling at the slightest touch of night breeze, transforming ordinary decay into something precious and alive. These peculiar organisms pulse with moisture absorbed from the humid air, their translucent bodies swelling and contracting in slow rhythms that mirror the forest's own breathing patterns. Indigenous canoe cedar reveals the scars of careful harvests from generations past, where skilled hands removed bark planks without killing the living trees, leaving vertical channels that have healed into smooth-walled corridors decorated with beadwork patterns of pitch and new growth. These cultural landmarks stand as testament to sustainable relationships between human communities and forest ecosystems that supported each other across countless seasons. Phantom orchids pierce through accumulations of fir needles like porcelain daggers, their pure white petals seeming to absorb and concentrate whatever photons penetrate the canopy's thick weave. These rare saprophytic beauties bloom unpredictably, sometimes remaining dormant for decades before mysterious triggers awaken their spectacular emergence from underground partnerships with beneficial fungi. The air develops a crystalline quality as we move deeper into old-growth chambers, each breath carrying microscopic spores and pollen grains that create natural air filtration systems more sophisticated than human technology can replicate. Our lungs process this purified atmosphere like drinking liquid emeralds, each inhalation bringing cellular refreshment that seems to slow aging processes and calm neural activity. Towering western hemlocks create cathedral pillars whose upper branches disappear into darkness, so completed suggests infinite height. Their graceful crowns swaying in wind currents that never reach ground level. The trees communicate through chemical signals released into the air, invisible conversations about drought stress, insect attacks, and seasonal transitions that coordinate forest-wide responses to environmental changes. Carpenter moths emerge from their woody cocoons in bark crevices, their larvae having spent years tunneling through heartwood while transforming cellulose into the proteins needed for metamorphosis. Adult moths navigate using polarized moonlight, their wing scales creating iridescent patterns that serve as aerial identification cards for potential mates, searching through the three-dimensional maze of branches and leaves. False azalea blooms release narcotic fragrances that can induce mild euphoria in creatures sensitive to their alkaloid compounds. Nature's own meditation enhancement delivered through petals that seem crafted from beeswax and moonbeams. The flower's honey proves toxic to most insects, protecting their nectar for specialized pollinators that have evolved resistance to compounds lethal to competitors. Soil respiration becomes audible in the profound silence, the earth itself exhaling carbon dioxide produced by countless underground organisms, processing organic matter into nutrients available for root uptake. This subterranean breathing creates barely perceptible sounds, soft sighs, and whispers that suggest the ground beneath our feet lives and thinks in geological time scales. Pallid bat echolocation. Clicks pepper the darkness like tiny typewriters composing aerial poetry. Their ultrasonic hunting calls bouncing off leaves and branches to create three-dimensional sound maps more detailed than visual perception could provide. These frequency patterns paint pictures of moth wing positions and spider web locations with acoustic precision that borders on supernatural awareness. Giant Pacific octopus ancestors may have crawled through these forests when Miocene seas covered lower elevations. Their evolutionary cousins now confined to nearby tide pools, while terrestrial descendants took forms unrecognizable to modern taxonomists. The thought of such transformations across deep time makes current forest residents seem like temporary visitors in landscapes that continually reinvent themselves. Coral fungi branch into delicate underwater gardens, growing on terrestrial surfaces. Their pastel colorations ranging from buttercream to salmon pink, creating fairy villages where imagination populates the miniature spaces between their ramifying structures. These intricate decomposers break down lignin with enzymatic alchemy that that transforms wood fiber into soil amendments more valuable than synthetic fertilizers. The pathway dissolves into suggestion rather than clear definition, requiring navigation by intuition and subtle environmental cues. Slightly compacted earth, the occasional broken twig, arrangements of stones that might be natural or might indicate human passage from decades past. Following these ephemeral guidelines feels like reading poetry written in landscape rather than words. Spotted owl feathers drift from invisible heights like benedictions, their barred patterns providing perfect camouflage against bark textures, even when separated from their original owners. Each feather represents aerodynamic perfection, evolved specifically for silent flight through dense forest environments, where the slightest sound might alert prey to approaching predation. Root beer plants release their namesake aromatics when disturbed, filling the air with memories of old-fashioned soda fountains and childhood summers. Though these wild relatives of commercial flavorings carry additional chemical complexities that add depth notes of wintergreen and anise to their familiar sweetness, indigenous peoples brewed these leaves into beverages that provided both nutrition and subtle psychoactive effects. Geoducks burrow through forest soil far from their typical marine environments. These massive clams, somehow surviving in terrestrial conditions that challenge conventional understanding of mollusk physiology. Their presence hints at underground aquifers and hidden water tables that connect seemingly dry land to distant ocean systems through subterranean rivers. Night blooming Sirius prepares for its annual flowering spectacular. Though this desert species seems impossibly out of place in temperate rainforest conditions, until closer examination reveals it growing epiphytically on ancient maple bark, accessing moisture and nutrients from aerial sources rather than soil-based root systems. Evolution's creativity manifests in adaptations that transcend geographical expectations. Crystalline formations emerge from mineral-rich springs, creating natural prisms that split starlight into component wavelengths too subtle for conscious perception, but apparently visible to creatures whose sensory apparatus extends beyond human limitations. These geological poetry installations suggest that beauty serves functional purposes in maintaining ecological harmony through frequencies we cannot measure, but somehow influence our emotional states. The forest's magnetic field variations become palpable in areas where iron-rich deposits create navigational landmarks for migrating birds, whose internal compass systems detect variations in Earth's electromagnetic signature. Standing in these zones produces subtle vertigo sensations as our own magnetic sensitivity, dormant in modern life, awakens to natural forces that once guided human travel across unmarked territories. Our journey approaches regions where individual consciousness begins dissolving into something larger collective awareness that includes every breathing tree, every decomposing leaf, every microscopic organism participating in cycles too vast for single minds to comprehend, but perfectly accessible to hearts willing to surrender their boundaries to the infinite patience dwelling at the center of all growing things. Ancient stumps reveal their hollow chambers where centuries of decay have carved natural throne rooms. Their interior walls polished smooth by generations of sheltering creatures who understood these wooden sanctuaries offered protection from storms that raged before human memory began recording weather patterns. Phosphorescent bacteria colonize these cavities, creating dim bioluminescent glow that pulses with the rhythm of cellular respiration, transforming dead wood into living lanterns that guide night wanderers toward shelter. Silk moth cocoons dangle like leather pouches from understory branches, their occupants undergoing transformations so complete that cellular structure dissolves entirely before reorganizing into winged forms that bear no resemblance to their caterpillar origins. The pupal casings emit barely detectable vibrations as metamorphosis progresses, creating subtle frequencies that resonate through branch networks to coordinate emergence timing across entire populations. Chanterelle mushrooms release spores in microscopic clouds that create taste sensations on the tongue without conscious consumption. Their reproductive strategies designed to attract mammals whose digestive systems will carry fungal genetics to suitable germination sites. These golden trumpets communicate through chemical signals that influence animal behavior, creating partnerships where both species benefit from carefully orchestrated biological manipulation. Thermal springs, warm pockets of forest floor, where geothermal activity rises through bedrock fissures, creating tropical microclimates that support plant communities typically found thousands of miles south. Delicate orchids and unusual ferns thrive in these heated zones, their presence creating botanical puzzles that demonstrate Earth's ability to nurture diversity through subsurface energy sources. Glass sponge skeletons embedded in ancient rock faces reveal this landscape's oceanic origins. Their intricate silicate structures preserving evidence of deep-sea communities that flourished when tectonic forces held these mountains beneath Pacific waves. Running fingers across these fossilized remains connects present moment forest experience to geological narratives spanning millions of years. Iridescent beetles navigate fallen logs using polarized light patterns invisible to human perception. Their compound eyes detecting wavelength information that creates three-dimensional maps of texture and moisture content across bark surfaces. These living jewels move with purpose that suggests intelligence far more sophisticated than their simple nervous systems should theoretically support. Moonmilk deposits coat cave entrances with bacterial mats so white they seem painted with luminous paint. Their calcium carbonate formations growing incrementally as underground streams deposit minerals through evaporation cycles that operate according to seasonal temperature fluctuations. The substance feels like wet chalk, but crumbles into powder that leaves fingertips tingling with alkaline sensations. Pitcher plant relatives adapt to forest floor conditions by developing modified leaves that trap insects in pools of digestive enzymes. Their carnivorous lifestyle supplementing poor soil nutrition with protein extracted from arthropod prey. The plants emit sweet fragrances that lure victims toward doom, disguised as nectar rewards, demonstrating nature's mastery of deceptive advertising. Underground streams course beneath our pathway, their presence revealed through subtle ground vibrations that travel up through boot soles into skeletal awareness of water, flowing through limestone channels carved by patient erosion. These hidden aquifers connect distant watersheds through subterranean networks that transport nutrients and chemical messages across seemingly separate ecosystems. Electromagnetic anomalies created by mineral deposits produce compass deflections that would confuse technological navigation, but somehow enhance natural wayfinding abilities, as if magnetic field variations awaken dormant sensory capabilities that modern humans rarely access. Standing in these zones produces tingling sensations along nerve pathways that feel simultaneously foreign and familiar. Tree resin hardens into amber windows that preserve insects from previous geological epochs, their fossilized bodies maintaining cellular detail so perfect that DNA sequences remain theoretically extractable after millions of years of molecular preservation. These natural time capsules suggest that forest chemistry possesses archival capabilities beyond current scientific understanding. Bioluminescent algae bloom in temporary pools where seasonal rains collect in granite depressions. Their blue-green radiance activated by physical disturbance that triggers chemical reactions resembling miniature lightning storms contained within single-celled organisms. Stepping near these aquatic displays creates ripples of light that expand outward like thrown stones made of pure photons. Carnivorous plants digest their prey through enzymatic processes that release aromatic compounds into surrounding air, creating perfumes that shift from floral sweetness to musty earthiness as protein breakdown progresses through various chemical stages. These olfactory transitions mark time in biological rather than chronological increments. Crystalline ice formations persist in deep shade despite mild temperatures, their hexagonal structures maintaining perfect geometric patterns that reflect available light sources into prismatic displays that paint rainbow fragments across nearby surfaces. The ice feels warm to touch, its molecular organization creating thermal paradoxes that challenge conventional understanding of phase transitions. Symbiotic relationships between different fungal species create composite fruiting bodies that display characteristics of neither parent organism, their hybrid nature producing flavors and textures that exist nowhere else in natural systems. These evolutionary experiments demonstrate ongoing genetic exchange that continues creating new life forms through intimate cellular cooperation. Gravity variations caused by underground cavern systems create zones where falling leaves drift more slowly toward Earth, their descent patterns altered by subsurface mass distributions that influence local gravitational fields. Walking through these areas produces subtle weightlessness sensations that make each footstep feel slightly bouncy. Ancient petroglyphs carved into basalt surfaces tell stories in symbolic languages that predate written communication, their meanings lost to contemporary understanding, but somehow still conveying emotional resonance that bypasses intellectual interpretation to communicate directly with intuitive awareness. Tracing these marks with fingertips produces electrical sensations that suggest information transfer through tactile channels. The pathway leads toward a natural amphitheater where geological forces have arranged fallen trees and exposed bedrock into semicircular patterns that focus acoustic energy toward a central point. Whispering from this focal spot carries clearly to listeners positioned anywhere within the formation, creating communication possibilities that transform ordinary conversation into mystical experience. Our forest journey approaches regions where sensory boundaries dissolve completely, where individual awareness expands to encompass every living system participating in this vast breathing organism that thinks in seasonal cycles, dreams in geological time, and loves through root networks that share sustenance across acres of apparent separation, revealing unity that exists beneath surface diversity in ways that sleeping consciousness understands perfectly, completely, eternally. Velvet-textured lichen species we haven't encountered before paint abstract murals across granite outcroppings, their surfaces feeling like suede when fingertips explore their intricate borders. These slow-growing partnerships between algae and fungi create living tapestries in shades of pewter and sage, their edges curling upward to catch moisture from air currents that barely qualify as breezes. The lichen releases microscopic particles when touched, creating tiny dust clouds that taste faintly of minerals and patience. Cascadias, endemic violet species, bloom in scattered clusters, where filtered light creates temporary spotlights on the forest floor. Their heart-shaped petals displaying color gradients that shift from deep purple at the base to lavender at the tips. These diminutive flowers emit a fragrance so subtle it requires deep inhalation to detect, carrying hints of honey mixed with the green scent of photosynthesis in progress. Their leaves feel waxy beneath exploring fingers, designed to shed moisture efficiently while maintaining photosynthetic capability. Underground fungi form massive networks that occasionally surface as fairy rings, circular patterns of mushrooms that mark the expanding perimeter of individual organisms that may span several acres beneath our feet. These fungal communities pulse with chemical communications, sharing nutrients and information through hyphal connections that function like biological internet cables. Walking across these hidden networks sometimes produces slight temperature variations underfoot, as if the earth itself generates warmth through subsurface metabolic processes. Stellar jays have cached acorns in bark crevices throughout this grove, their strategic food storage creating potential oak forests in locations where parent trees never grew. These intelligent corvids remember hundreds of hiding places, their spatial memory systems operating with precision that surpasses human navigational abilities. Occasionally, we discover forgotten caches sprouting into seedlings, evidence of accidental forest planting by creatures whose survival strategies inadvertently serve broader ecological purposes. Rough-skinned newts emerge for their terrestrial wanderings across areas where ground moisture maintains optimal humidity levels for amphibian skin respiration. These small dragons move with deliberate slowness, their bright orange bellies warning potential predators of toxic compounds concentrated in skin secretions. Their presence indicates ecosystem health, as these sensitive creatures require pristine environmental conditions to complete their complex life cycles. Bank swallow colonies have excavated tunnel networks in exposed clay deposits, where seasonal erosion creates vertical surfaces suitable for communal nesting. Though the birds remain absent during night hours, their architectural achievements persist as testament to collective engineering that rivals human construction projects. The tunnels maintain consistent temperatures through thermal regulation principles that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of underground climate control. Tidal influences somehow penetrate this inland forest through underground aquifer connections, creating subtle rhythms in groundwater levels that affect plant behavior in ways barely perceptible to casual observation. Certain moisture-sensitive species adjust their metabolic rates according to these twice-daily fluctuations. Their cellular processes synchronized to oceanic cycles occurring miles away. Quantum entanglement between paired photons creates interference patterns in areas where dense canopy coverage blocks most direct sunlight, allowing only specific wavelengths to penetrate forest layers. These filtered light conditions produce unusual photosynthetic responses in shade-adapted plants, their chlorophyll systems operating at efficiency levels that challenge conventional understanding of energy conversion processes. Mycelium threads glow with bioluminescent properties that become visible only when eyes fully adapt to complete darkness. Their ethereal radiance creating underground constellation patterns that mirror stellar arrangements overhead. This fungal luminescence pulses in response to chemical signals from nearby root systems, suggesting communication networks that operate through both biochemical and optical channels. Vesicular arbuscular mycorrhizae form intimate relationships with nearly every plant species in this ecosystem. Their microscopic root penetrations creating nutrient exchange systems that benefit both partners through molecular trading that occurs at cellular levels. These partnerships represent cooperation so fundamental that most forest plants cannot survive without their fungal allies, making symbiosis the rule rather than exception in healthy ecosystems. Territorial scent markings left by various mammal species create invisible boundary maps that organize forest space according to species-specific protocols. Their chemical signatures providing information about reproductive status, health conditions, and social hierarchies, though human olfactory systems cannot consciously process these aromatic messages. Subliminal scent detection influences our emotional responses to different forest areas. Atmospheric pressure variations caused by thermal updrafts create subtle air currents that carry winged seeds and spores along predictable routes, establishing aerial highways that connect distant plant populations through wind-powered genetics exchange. These atmospheric rivers operate according to meteorological patterns that demonstrate weather's role in maintaining genetic diversity across fragmented habitats. piezoelectric effects generated by crystalline minerals under pressure produce weak electrical fields that influence plant growth patterns in ways that create seemingly intentional landscape arrangements. Trees growing near these geological formations often develop unusual branching patterns and enhanced growth rates, suggesting that electromagnetic phenomena play larger roles in forest development than previously recognized. Hibernating bat colonies occupy hollow trees throughout this forest, their collective body heat creating thermal chimneys that moderate internal temperatures during winter months. Though currently active, these nocturnal hunters will soon gather in communal roosts where lowered metabolic rates allow survival through resource-scarce seasons. Their guano deposits fertilize surrounding soil with nitrogen-rich amendments that benefit entire plant communities. Sound absorption properties of certain bark textures create acoustic shadows where even loud noises become muffled to whisper levels, establishing natural quiet zones that provide refuge for sound-sensitive species. These biological sound dampening systems operate through surface irregularities that scatter audio wavelengths, creating silence more profound than what modern technology can achieve. Magnetic declination varies throughout this forest due to iron ore deposits that create localized compass deflections. These mineral concentrations serving as navigational landmarks for migrating animals equipped with magnetic sensing capabilities. The metallic taste that occasionally fills our mouths while walking through certain areas indicates exposure to airborne particles from these underground deposits. Our pathway curves toward a grove of ancient specimens whose combined root systems have achieved such integration that individual trees function as components of a superorganism that responds to environmental challenges through coordinated chemical releases and synchronized physiological adjustments. These forest elders communicate through languages older than human speech. Their conversations conducted through molecular exchanges that span decades. Their wisdom accumulated through centuries of weather, growth, and patient observation of changes that unfold across timescales that transform human lifespans into momentary events in the endless story of this breathing, thinking, dreaming sanctuary where consciousness expands beyond individual boundaries to embrace the infinite intelligence that dwells in the spaces between heartbeats, in the silence between thoughts, in the gentle darkness that welcomes weary souls into profound and healing rest. Sleep-inducing sedges whisper lullabies as their triangular stems brush together in harmonies pitched below conscious hearing. Their frequencies designed to synchronize with theta brainwaves that accompany the deepest phases of restorative slumber. These grass-like composers conduct nocturnal symphonies through blade-on-blade percussion that creates rhythmic patterns mirroring the cadence of peaceful breathing. Dormant hummingbird nests, no larger than walnut shells, cling to branch junctions where architectural precision meets artistic beauty in structures woven from spider silk and thistledown. Though their creators have migrated toward warmer latitudes, these abandoned nurseries persist as monuments to devotion. Their cup-shaped interiors still holding traces of warmth from eggs that hatched months ago. Subterranean streams carve smooth channels through bedrock layers, their patient flow creating underground music that resonates through soil particles and root networks to produce vibrations felt rather than heard. This geological percussion section operates in frequencies so low they bypass auditory processing entirely, communicating directly with cellular memory stored in bone marrow and muscle tissue. Alpenglow phenomena occur even in deep forest where no peaks are visible, as atmospheric particles scatter wavelengths that paint tree trunks in rose gold hues during the transition between day and night. This optical blessing transforms ordinary bark into burnished metal surfaces that seem to radiate inner warmth, creating the illusion that trees generate their own aurora effects. Neural pathways slow to match the forest's unhurried pace as circadian rhythms synchronize with natural light cycles, unfiltered by artificial illumination. Neurotransmitter production shifts toward compounds associated with serenity and cellular repair, while stress hormones dissolve like morning mist touched by gentle sunshine. The ancient grove embraces us with its timeless presence, where consciousness gradually dissolves into something larger than individual awareness, becoming part of the eternal rhythm that breathes through root systems, flows through underground rivers, and dreams through chlorophyll green thoughts that span seasons. Here, in this sanctuary where time moves like honey through sleeping branches, where every breath tastes of infinity and every heartbeat echoes the patient pulse of growing things, we find ourselves drifting naturally into the profound rest that dwells at the heart of all wild places, carried gently into dreams woven from starlight and silence, moss and moonbeams, love and perfect, infinite peace.